Hey guys, and welcome to or back to the Paws in Pursuit podcast with your host, Summer Clark. Now today, as promised in last week's episode, we have a very special guest on the podcast. So today I will be talking to Lucy Norton, who owns and runs her business, Ready to Run Agility, her dog training business, and I'm going to be discussing with her all about how to build your own dog training business. So yeah, I asked you guys to ask Lucy a load of questions on my Instagram story recently, so we're going to be going through them, and Lucy's going to be giving her take on having a dog training business. So I am really excited for this conversation, and I hope you find this episode useful. Now, let's start the call with Lucy. Right, so thank you for coming on the podcast. I had loads of questions from my Instagram followers for you, so we'll start off with just introduce yourself and your business to start with.
Okay, so I'm Lucy Norton and I have a Ready to Run Agility dog training.
Okay, so the first question is, have you had any other jobs other than being a dog trainer?
Yes, so when I was at school I worked in a boarding kennels, which I probably was working there for maybe about 6 years probably.
Quite a while.
And then I also worked for a telephone and internet sales company, which I hated.
Yeah, was that part-time?
Pardon?
Was that part-time or full-time?
No, that was full-time,
okay.
Yeah.
What, boarding kennels as well?
Boarding kennels, I worked most weekends when I was at school, and then 3 days a week. And then that's when I started the internet and phone sales the other couple of days, and then the internet and phone sales took over, and I worked doing that pretty much 5 days a week.
Oh, cool.
And then from that saved enough money so that I could start my own business because I hated doing it.
And how old were you when you started your business?
Oh, how old was I? I would say it's hard. It's a hard one because I started my own business probably about, I would say just over probably 10 to 12 years ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, I started teaching for like other clubs, really. So like I would help out teach like a Newark club for a bit. So that kind of helped me a little bit get a kind of like a foundation of people that I taught, really, basically.
Oh, okay, cool.
And just understanding of training as well, understanding different dogs and building knowledge of partnerships and stuff like that.
Yeah, watching others train as well probably helped quite a bit.
Yeah.
So the next one is quite a broad question, but how did you build your business from the ground up, step by step? So sort of how did you start off and then sort of build on it?
Okay, so it kind of goes a little bit on to the previous question. So basically, I think my business started probably from like starting with the boarding kennels, because it's got nothing to do with agility as such as the business is now, but actually gave me a massive understanding about like learning to understand dogs' behaviour.
Yeah.
I also went to uni for a year doing animal behaviour.
You did the same course as me, didn't you, I think?
I did the animal behaviour degree, but I got a year through it and I just didn't enjoy not necessarily the learning behind it, it's just the time, etc.
I fully understand that.
So I think going back to the boarding kennels, it just made me like really first-hand learn to observe dogs' behaviour. I often then got the dogs that have that you really need to watch carefully, and I think kennels is a stressful situation for dogs sometimes, so it makes you observe behaviours a little bit more. And I think I got bitten once at the boarding kennels, and it turned out that the actual dog had a brain tumour, and it actually died 3 months later. But it was really out of character for the dog. That just to give, I mean, I'm not saying you need to be bitten to understand, to be aware of dogs, but it just made you really observe what every dog's doing that you don't know. So I think things like that, like little silly incidents like that, where there was no warning with that, things just happened and escalated quickly, but it makes you learn to observe behaviour a little bit more like detailed, really. And then kind of going on from there, I started dog training with my own dog kind of got into like obedience first, started agility, so started going a little bit like you've done with Earl, really, like just started going gradually up the grades, and got another dog. And the thing for me, probably the reason why I fell into teaching is because in our area we didn't have anybody really. We had a woman called Arlene Law, who's now moved, but we didn't really have many people that taught a modern way at the time, which now it really isn't modern, but everything at the time was on lead. Like dogs learn agility on lead, and that's how it was.
Well, my first one was like that.
Jumped to their height, and they just jumped their height. So I'd kind of like, you know, when you're doing something and you want to progress, the internet has like so much knowledge on there. So I just used to source look over the internet, find what I wanted to do, find people that I liked the way they handled, and then I just used to go and ask them questions, basically, which is kind of a little bit like the podcasts that are out now, like, is good for like asking the questions people want to know. So I kind of like followed people, and then like learned, like watched what they did, followed what they did, and then started doing stuff at home, basically. And then again, we just didn't have the people around, so I started to do like little bits of teaching, and then kind of obviously it took off from there, really.
Yeah, cool. So the next one, obviously you have an indoor and an outdoor venue. Someone asked, do you rent or own your field and indoor arena?
Yeah, good question. So I rent my field at Skellingthorpe and my indoor venue at Skellingthorpe. I've been there for years. I think I pretty much started there with the indoor, and the outdoor I moved to, I think it was probably like 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, from South Clifton to there, which is just, I mean, for my business, that's brilliant, because they're like across the road from each other. So and the flexibility of the indoor as it is, although the surface isn't perfect, the flexibility is if it's raining or rubbish outside, I can just pop across.
Yeah, no, it's perfect.
The indoors, and it's not like 20 minutes away. So yeah, and I think that's nice to have the two options that are so close by, because you can make that decision like half an hour before.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than, you know, having to make it the day before, or so that point. Yeah, I do rent it, and obviously that, as a business wise, obviously renting is always going to be like, it's going to take more money off you, like basically rather than if you buy it, it's obviously more out straight away. But you're paying into your own pot, basically.
Yes, that's true.
But it's just so expensive especially to put up an indoor, especially agility. If you're wanting to put it up to a decent size, I mean, I've been looking at quotes for them, and I mean, 150 grand at least.
Yeah.
To put up it up a, you know, that's with just like a stand, and that's like doing everything yourself as well. So that's it's not cheap. And I know like there's recent venues that have gone up, AstroTurf venues have cost like 250,000. So it's a lot of money to plough into a business. So it's making sure that you have that there, and you have the following to follow it up, because it's not only that you've got to think about. So you put in your venue up that may cost £250,000, but then you've got business rates of maybe like 15 grand a year before you even make any money, plus paying off that £250,000. So it's a lot of money to like it's a lot of pressure on a business. So it's just making sure you have that stability and the take up there to make sure the business works.
Yeah, definitely. So the next few are quite sort of individual to you, but what do you think is the hardest part of having your own business, like compared to working for a business?
Hardest part, no doubt, is when you like, I don't switch off from work. It's very hard to switch off from work. And because I work, so I'll go to work and I will teach. And I think the easiest thing is I'm not my work isn't at home, but the hardest thing is you're working with people, you're going out and you're teaching. By the time you get back, then you've got to do all your admin work, and I think people forget about that. Is like you go out and you teach all day, but then you come back and you've got your admin of your booking your one-to-ones, arranging training days, sorting courses out, sorting guest trainers out, making sure people have paid, checking people have paid. And the thing is, when you ask questions, sometimes people aren't online at that specific time. So it doesn't just happen then. So like you might ask a question one day, but then you might have to finish it off like in 2 days' time. So it's always like hours of admin that kind of go like unrecognized, and it's kind of well, I'm thankful sometimes Stephen, my husband, will always be like, are you working again? And I'm like, so but I always forget, and I will get lost in like doing admin, because it's like the way I see it is because the people I teach I know so well, because I'm developing their partnerships and they're kind of with me on like a rolling basis. It's not just like an 8 weeks and see you later like foundation life skills course. You kind of people a lot more, so like you end up chatting a little bit more, which then it doesn't seem like admin, but you're still doing your admin.
That's true.
I think that's the hardest part, is actually like limiting your hours down for your admin, because otherwise that takes over.
You probably take as much time doing admin as you are actually teaching, I suppose, as well. It's like I'm organising classes and stuff like that. I mean, the best thing I've done is like I have my members group, which people could like pay to be on the members page, which entitles them to get like first look at training days, which saves me a lot of admin, because it means usually things mostly fill on there before I put them on my website. So it just means that I don't have to do as much like advertising for training days and stuff like that. So that saves a little bit of admin. It's still just the whole admin at the time, making sure you've added everybody. That's it. So do you plan your courses like before training, or do you sort of make it up pretty much on the spot, if that makes sense?
So it depends really on the group. So usually I think mostly I will have kind of looked at some courses and like certain bits of courses that I've seen, mostly from like international judges that I've seen, and then I'll kind of set that up, or set part of that up that I want to maybe work on with the students. And then depending on the groups, because obviously some of my classes are a little bit mixed, but I could like have one group with puppies, and then I could have like grades 6 to 7 dogs, and then 4 to 5 dogs. And then, so what I'll try and do is I will set something up, and then like break things down for the younger dogs. But I usually have something in mind, or it might be that, like one group maybe have struggled with like threadle slices or push rounds or like blind tunnel entrances. So then I'll just make a note of it, and then say next week we're gonna, I don't know, maybe focus on tunnel entrances, or we might focus on weaves, or if there's like a majority of the class which struggle with something. But I think the good thing as well with teaching competitive agility is that usually if like there's homework you can give, most people have a wing, or they can do some sort of the behaviour to get a result. So people go away and practice a little bit more. So that's obviously always makes helpful. My life easier as well.
Yeah, that's true. So on the other end of that, what would you say is the most rewarding part of having your own business compared to a normal, working for a business?
Okay, so I think the most rewarding part of working for yourself rather than working for somebody else is, like, although it's hard, and I think you have to be mentally strong as well to run your own business, because there's always somebody that wants to like nitpick at something. There's always somebody who wants to say, oh, you're doing like, oh, they're doing this, or you're doing this, or like, and I like, it just goes over my head. I'm just like, well, if you're that, the way I see it is kind of, if you want to talk about me, then I'm obviously doing something right.
Exactly.
I'd rather be talked about than not talked about, like, if that makes sense. But I don't think that if I'm ever being talked about in a way that I think, I will always process that information, but then kind of say, am I doing what I'm doing wrong?
Yeah.
Is it not right or right? Sometimes I might be wrong. Like, not everybody's right all the time, so that's fair enough. You can assess your own like mistakes and move on. But I think I've gone a bit off topic as well then. What was that question again?
The most rewarding part of having your own business.
So I think you've got to be mentally strong, but I think if you've got that part, then you can you get the benefits. Like, if you're mentally strong and you have the willpower to say to somebody, no, like, this is what you need to do, and you have the confidence in yourself to say, I'm pretty sure I'm right. Then, like, you get the results. Like, people little results. Like, I teach a dog who used to just sniff in the ring all the time, and like, it wasn't focused, and then we've got it onto its toy, and he's really focused and he's really motivated. And she came to training the other week, and she was like, we had our first clear round, and he didn't go off and sniff. And like, that's just so rewarding, because it's like, it's people might think it's a tiny thing, but from that is a whole lot of dog training, a whole huge, lot of like work has gone into that. But then you've got the other thing, like, obviously now, like, I've got partnerships that are making like Team GB, making like the Olympia, making obviously you done well with the juniors, and I've got other juniors that are doing well as well, and have made Team GB recently. So I think that's really rewarding as well, to see that. Obviously, we've got young people doing well, and also like other people as well that I teach are doing really well. And I think that for me is really rewarding. Obviously, because they're getting they're doing well because they're getting the real results, and they're making their own achievements. Really, it's reinforcing and rewarding for me, because it means I'm doing something right.
Exactly.
And obviously, it's good to see like the joy that obviously people are getting from that, but also just the little goals from like dogs that have been really nervous.
Well, like Arrow, I suppose.
Like Arrow was really unconfident, and and it's hard because you're like, oh, he's never going to be confident, and I'm like we just need to break things down. And I guess that's as well with like working through all the different backgrounds of dogs that I've worked through. You kind of see dogs and whether they're going to get through it, or whether it's going to take a long time, or whether you think, like I said to you with Arrow, I was like, we need to just take things back, take all the pressure off, and I think the same with my own dog. Figure is like, sometimes you put pressure on, but you don't feel like you're putting pressure on.
Exactly.
And it can be doing the tiniest little things, but it's just the taking things back and stripping things back and going, don't rush. And knowing, I think, seeing like I said to you with that Arrow, it was like we could have started his contacts in the ring at the same point of we could have done his jumping, but that would have been too much mentally, and he would have just not been where he is now. And I would be pretty confident in saying that he wouldn't be where he is now. Like, if you had done agility in the ring at the same time as jumping, because he didn't have the confidence there, but it was just about growing in increments. So things like that. And also, obviously, when people put their faith into you and listen to you, and through them moments, and I'm sure like with Arrow, you were like, oh, for God's sake, when's she going to say that I can do agility? Like, so frustrating. Or like, I can do jumping, but she's still saying, hold off. But then when things like, obviously now Arrow is like really pushy, he's really motivated. Occasionally he can be a boy and like want to like sniff and have but he doesn't ever do that when he's working. When he's working, he's like, everything's on you and him. So I think when you see them results coming through, like, and the transformations of the dogs, how they were to how they are now, and I think that's always the thing I always try and say to people: keep the videos of like the beginning, because when you see them in a year's time, you're like, what is this really the same dog? So all them things, all that really all makes it makes you obviously feel good, because you're doing something right, but it's also nice to see the response that obviously people are feeling, because obviously they're doing really well.
Yeah, definitely.
Or they've even just got a clear, or they've had a round where the dogs have got their weaves, all them little things.
Yeah, cool. So the next one is, how long did it take for your business to kick off and you'd start earning enough from it, sort of earning a living from it, roughly?
Okay.
From start to when you sort of could say, yes, this is my sort of full-time job?
I would probably say maybe about a year, and that was obviously kick-started because obviously we've got other trainers around here, but at the time we had nobody that was doing like what we call like the European handling. There was no blinds, no ketchkers. Obviously the people doing agility terms would understand that, but there was no like modern handling in our area really. So I guess I kind of got them people that wanted to do or just have someone else to just watch over. Then people came straight away, but when I first started I didn't charge that much at all, so I think obviously it was probably cheaper for people to come to me than hire some of the like paddocks. So but that gave me a lot of experience with what I was doing. So I think because there was not much in the area at the time, that obviously helped my own business.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose you sort of increase the price as you go as well. I
increased price depending on like loads of factors, like would be like the venue hire, the equipment that I was buying, because obviously the more I progressed, I would then buy better equipment, and so and over the years I just keep like adding to. And I think the worst thing in the world are tunnels and sandbags, because that tunnel is really expensive now. It's not the tunnel, it's the bloody sandbags. I think just adding to, like every year I like try and add, like in every couple of months I like keep saving. So basically I have an account which I save or transfer money to from before I pay myself out of my business, so that I can keep that money to the side to keep just getting new equipment. Because I think it's important that obviously I just keep getting new equipment. And it's so I think that's another thing. And obviously I was comparing prices the other day of what I charge, and I still don't charge. I think I'm probably one of the cheapest trainers in our area yet. Has done the most regarding like competing with my own dogs, results with my own dogs, and results with, and obviously students having results. But I think I'm comfortable with what I charge, and I know I could charge more. But I feel like I would rather things be affordable for people, especially with what we're going through at the moment with like the rising cost of living. People's wages haven't increased that much, and obviously then I want my wages to increase as well. But obviously my venue hire has gone up, so I've made a slight increase on my indoor classes, but I've not changed my actual price. I've just incorporated the extra cost of the venue slightly, which I still don't cover the full cost. But I would rather, I think as well to take into consideration is, if you're having like an 8-week foundation course of people that, like for me, they're quick turnaround courses. So you see them for 8 weeks, you do your puppy foundation course, they're out the door, they're gone. And that's brilliant. That puppy should have like a kickstart to their life skills. I think you can charge more for that, because people are willing to pay more for that, because it's like a fundamental life skill thing. But it's just short term, so people will pay more for something that's short term. But you can't expect people on a rolling basis to keep that high price tag and be able to afford it.
That's
because
true.
They're going to make the choices of, okay, it's highest price tag, but I might train one dog. If 3/4 of that price, they may train 2 dogs.
That's true.
And so I think it's for me, it's one, it has to be affordable, and 2, it has to be. I think if it's too expensive, people just they they're so obsessed with what they're getting, which is fine. You obviously want like value for money.
Yeah.
But equally, it's like the stress of like if they can't make it, they worry, or if they, you know, I let people sell their spaces to people that I train, and the only reason I keep it between people they train is because obviously then people know how I train. I don't have to like spend more time explaining things to somebody else and wasting other people's time. So it's just keeping things like in perspective to what people can afford, or most people can afford.
Yeah, cool. So the next one kind of ties into that. So did you take, when you had no equipment to start off with, did you take out a loan to afford the equipment and the venue? Or did you have savings from your other jobs?
No, I had literally, the only time I've loaned money was for my van, and that's pretty much the only thing I've ever loaned money for. I don't like loaning money because I'm like, if I can't get it, then I just work harder. So yeah, I've never wanted to loan or have a loan or take a loan out, just because I just want to know that everything that is mine is paid for, and you know, I'm not gonna, and it's just one less thing to be coming out of my bank account each month. So thankfully, with the job that I did before, working in telephone sales, it was commission based. So I was one of them annoying people, but I absolutely hated it, but was quite good at it. So it set me up that I could then drop my hours, but still have the I could still have like money coming in each month, despite the fact that I wasn't working. So it meant that I could do that, and I could go out and work for that company full time. Get up my, like, it was kind of like a pyramid scheme, but then I could drop my days to like 3 days and do 2 days of agility and still be earning a little bit of money from commission. And then basically what I did is just gradually drop my days from telephone sales from 3 days to 2 days to 1 day, and then obviously increase my agility. But just that meant that I had the money there to be able to buy a full set of equipment and start my business. I think the downside, like when I started agility, like you could buy a full set of equipment for like $3,000.
Oh wow, okay. And now dog walks are like half that.
And now you're probably looking at like $1,000 per piece of equipment, and then 7 jumps now cost you like £850, I think, and then your tunnels are like 200 quid. So I think so when I started agility, obviously I bought all what was then the modern equipment to the KC standard, but then obviously as my business grew and the changes happened, like all the changes that have happened happened gradually, so I've been able to like update
as it goes
gradually.
Cool. So the next one is, what are your hours like? So I know they're quite not sort of set hours, but what roughly do you work in a day hours wise?
Oh god, it varies so much. Usually I would teach probably like 5 to 6 hours a day, and then obviously like we go to like my Wednesdays I'm teaching for 9 hours on my alternate Wednesdays, which I leave 15-minute breaks between the classes, or switch over, like just call it switch over time. But so like there's 15 minutes between each one of those, so it like takes up more time, so I'm like in there for like 14 hours or something. I think every alternate Wednesday is my long day. Everything else is probably about 6 hours. But I think the other thing to think about, like if I go and do a training day, it's like I'm teaching for say 6 hours mostly, but then your drive back could be like another 2 hours. So another time. 4 hours onto your day, and then you have to get there half an hour earlier to set up. So that's another like hour. So your 6 hour training day then adds another 4.5 hours on.
How often do you training days, like not at your venue, at other people's venues?
How often? So I probably do 4 a month, depending on what I'm doing that month. Probably do 4 a month, and then I do 2 for myself. So yeah, I've got a long list of training days, but at the moment it's just like having Brody. Just makes it hard. Obviously, Stephen's on shift, so I'll be able to do more when Stephen retires from his job, because then he won't be working shifts, which will make it easier for me, because it means I can do more training days. Which obviously for me, that's more lucrative than me like standing inside teaching group classes, because obviously I'm charging less for regular group classes than I do for training days. So obviously if I can, once like Stephen drops that, I can increase and do another 2 or 3 training days. It just means that then I don't have I can earn more, but then have for like 3 days more work.
So obviously you host other like trainers at your venue, don't you, when you do training days? So do you sort of split the profit between you and then the guest trainers that you have on, or?
No, so how it works with guest trainers is it's not actually super lucrative really for me to have a guest trainer. So when I have a guest trainer, obviously like people have put like the prices of having a guest trainer, and then you've obviously got to cover your guest trainer hire, you've got to cover your venue hire, you've got to cover their lunch, you've got to cover their fuel, and then so what I kind of tend to do with a guest trainer is I want to like kind of try and work out that as long as I can train 2 of my dogs for free, then that means that I'm quite happy with like breaking even, because for me I want to actually just train my own dogs, because it's so hard by the time you've like fitted your one-to-ones in, you've done your training, you've done your teaching, by the time you get to the end of the day, you don't particularly really want to train your own dogs.
That's it.
So I think for me, it's more for getting the guest trainers across is more I get over who I know I will enjoy their training. And because it just gives me a time to train my dogs and switch off from teaching. So I just invite people over that I know I'd enjoy, or I think they will set something beneficial for my dog over, and then equally I know if I enjoy them, that obviously the students are going to find them beneficial as well. So it just gives students an opportunity to do something with somebody else, get a fresh set of eyes over their dog. And equally I think as well for the students, it's when they're training with somebody else, it's their behaviour changes sometimes as well. So it's like it's good for them to work through that, but also like mainly like for me, it's just nice for me to like just train my own dogs. And so I'm quite happy with like putting the price so pretty much I can train my own dogs and cover the costs of the expenses that need to go out. So it keeps training as cheap as I can make it, but it just means that I can just obviously switch off and naturally enjoy training my own dogs.
Do you do a lot of training with your own dogs? Like, do you find time in the day to train your own dogs on a normal day or at your venue? Or
so it's a little bit hard, especially indoors, because obviously you're limited with your time and obviously you want to get your training in, but then obviously if I train before, then I've got to set everything up on my own, whereas when you're outside everything's set up, so it's like super easy to train your own dogs. But when I'm indoors, I either try and do it in a break, like so on a Wednesday, like yesterday I have a break in the middle of the day, so I have 2 hours, so then I'll go, and what I usually do is go and walk my dogs and then bring them back in and do like half an hour split between 3 of them on a Wednesday, and then if there's an evening where I can leave my equipment up, or an afternoon where I can leave some of my equipment up, then I'll probably get my students to pack away the stuff that I'm not using, and then like whatever's at the side that I want to use, then I will do like little bits with them. So in the winter when we go indoors, I don't do as much just because of that reason. But again, that's probably why I have more guest trainers over the winter as well. So it means I'm just keeping them ticking over with the courses, and just doing like little bits of like dog walk or seesaw and individual bits over the winter. And then I'll go off and hire somewhere that has everything set up, so I don't have to set things up myself. But yeah, in the summer, obviously having the field means obviously you can leave the stuff up, or I can leave the stuff up in the field, which means then like I can get to training earlier and train, or I can stay later and train. I don't have to move things when my classes have finished midday, then we can train. So like that makes it a lot easier.
So the other one's similar. It's how many days a week do you work? So like, for example, do you have weekends off, or do you get days off, or do you pretty much work every day to some degree?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say I probably work every day. I don't think I've had a day off, like a full day off for ages.
Yeah, because there's always something in there.
So I think, but working wise, like I found myself last year, I worked 27 days straight without a break. So yeah, I think usually I would try and make sure at least that I have one day solidly off now. That just means like a no admin day. Like I'm not responding to anything. Like no admin day. But I think it's realistically there's a degree of like, even if it's just like you have your weekend off, I'll be at a dog show, and then if I've got like a couple of hours spare and I've got nothing to do until my next run, then I will sit and try and catch up on a little bit of admin. Just because then I'm like, I don't have to do it at like 10 o'clock at night. But yeah, I think you as with your own business, and I think especially people that are employed coming into your own business, what you need to remember as well is like you don't get your sick pay.
That's true.
Okay, and I think that's what a lot of people forget, and I think when I think this is probably the reason we're starting to see like the 0-hour contracts as well a little bit more now. That is like just because employers just get naffed off with people being like ill when they're not ill, and I think what you see with people that are self-employed and don't have another business is actually they'll just crack on and be like, well, I'm not getting paid. I won't get paid if I don't work, so I just crack on and get on with it. So I think you tend to find yourself like working quite a lot.
The next one is, how did you first advertise your business and get clients? So when you first started your business, how did you sort of get people to come to you?
When I first started my business, probably I think I even put like flyers in the shop to start with. I mean that's probably not even a thing now, but like I would say now it's obviously like social media wasn't, I mean obviously we had like, not that old, we had the internet and stuff, but like it wasn't that we wouldn't. At the time I started my business, Facebook wasn't a massive thing. So, I mean, obviously it was there, but it wasn't like what it is now in like as a platform for businesses. So yeah, I just basically locally, I like spoke to people asked me at shows, and then it kind of went from there. And I guess like it's the same thing. I was lucky at the time that actually nobody in the area was similar.
Yes, that's true. Less competition, I suppose.
So yeah, there's nothing in the area that was similar, so it just made it a lot easier. Or there was like other trainers around, but equally like they were full, or you know, like there was not very many options for people.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, I didn't really need to do too much advertising in order to get that.
Yeah. Whereas now, I suppose there's lots of people trying to do a similar thing, I suppose, as well, especially online. So, so how did lockdown affect your business, and what did you do to overcome it?
Okay, lockdown was rubbish. So lockdown was rubbish because obviously at the time that it happened, where was we? It was March, wasn't we?
2020, wasn't it?
It was, we were kind of just going to go back outside, and but we couldn't even be outside, and then my venue hire, etc. I couldn't hire anything, or even use the field. And the thing is, obviously, where I teach, there's a public footpath behind it. So like, I couldn't even try and like even do like sneaky one-to-ones, because
Yeah.
it's like
It's
anyone
obvious.
that walks past there, it was just that would just crucify your business.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really hard. And I think the hardest thing, I mean, I was lucky because I didn't, like, my venue hire, like, they just said, obviously, we're not charging you for when you can't be here. Where I know some of my students that also teach, they had to pay for their venue hire. Still, it was not as much as what they was when they used it, but they still had to, like, pay a baseline amount, which obviously, like, if you had, like, a business that was in, let me think, like a commercial let or something like that, you'd still have to pay it even through lockdown. So there's that to consider. But I was lucky with that I think as well, I've been there for so long, and I couldn't use it, so they didn't charge me for that. So that meant that was like saved me a lot of money. But then what I did was I worked with my dog's physio, and we came up with like an online course, and we just did it was basically like a mixture of like life skills mixed with agility, mixed with like conditioning. So it was stuff that so it was stuff that we could do in the house basically with people, or you could do on your like hour walks, and I think that was good. That had a lot of uptake, and it was quite nice for us because we could just switch between who had the admin role. So we did, you could have your feedback, but like Jenny would post one day and I would post the next day, then Jenny would post. So it just meant that when we uploaded stuff, we weren't both having to respond to everything.
That's it.
It was like shared, so that was good, and we could kind of similarly both respond if we wanted to as well, because the knowledge was there. So yeah, I think that helped massively. And then I did some online training, like one-to-ones and stuff. And then obviously, and I don't do it that much, but then obviously we could do still behaviour consults outside. So then I did take up a couple of behaviour consults because I had the time to do them. Basically.
True.
So yeah.
Was like when you did the online courses, were most of your clients that did the online courses people that had already trained with you in person before lockdown? Like, did they sort of just transition over to online, or did you get like new clients from the online side of it?
Mostly were people that I've trained before. I mean, the thing is, I've trained a lot of people from travelling over for training days and stuff like that. So I knew everybody on there apart from 2 people that I hadn't trained before. But yeah, I think most of them, like, I hadn't trained regularly, but maybe like trained a year ago or something like that. But most of them were people that had, like, I know from agility, or like I've been to a seminar or something like that.
Oh, cool. So this one's kind of not sort of business, but what makes a good dog trainer in your opinion?
Okay. I think, so the first thing is obviously you need to have patience. And so I think sometimes I would say, you need patience, but I think that's more for people. Not necessarily dogs. And I think also, like, I work now, so like when I first started agility, things weren't like diagnosed with other people. So I'm like people that were, I don't know, like that just have learning difficulties, or that people that are colorblind, or people that are like they might have it like ADHD, autism, like them sorts of things. Is like that was it, things like that weren't really diagnosed when I started teaching. But what we've obviously started to see is things are now being diagnosed earlier. So I think, like, I train quite a lot of people, like older people, as well as like some younger people that really struggle. So I think, like, people think of dog training as just like teaching people to do something with their dog, whether it be like obedience, whether it be life skills. But actually, like with agility, because you're seeing these people regularly, it's like I know more now about like learning, about like how people learn with that are maybe autistic, that are like or have like a processing disorder. So it might be they like process, like they can't process numbers, but they process things in like a formation. Like, so and it means like learning how to explain things and how, you know, there's so many different things that, you know, like I teach a young girl who has hearing difficulties as well. So it's like I feel for her being a young girl and having to wear ear implants, cognitive ear implants. I can't say that. It's hard because, like, for me now, being older, I would just say, so what? Like, if that makes you be able to hear,
exactly.
Like, God, what people think. But like being a young girl at school with like kids who can't, they see something different and it's like, why, like, let's bully that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's hard for her, but it's like she's finally started to come into training now and wear her ear implants, which I've noticed for like the last 3 times she's actually worn them and been okay with it. So like that's a massive win because like she's actually feeling like she's now in a situation where she can do that and feel confident. So I think it's learning to like, being able to be, when I say patient, it's like being patient with people, but being patient and helping them grow individually. Because if they grow individually, then their dog training is going to be better.
No, that's true.
Like because at the end of the day, I'm teaching them to train their dog, and occasionally I'll take their dog and say, right, okay, we're finding this hard, let me just demonstrate with your dog, and that's fine. But in the grand schemes, I'm trying to teach you how to teach your dog how to do something. So I need to be able to make sure that I can explain it in a way that they can process it, and equally like be approachable enough that that person will tell you that they have an issue learning, or they have, do you know what I mean? Like, and because the thing is, there's no problem with like somebody having a problem processing something, but obviously my issue is if I don't know, you're not going to be explaining it in a way that is ideal for them. So then it's going to make it harder for them. So then they're going to be more nervous, then their dog training performance or their confidence is going to go down. So I think it's trying to be approachable enough that people obviously will tell you and share this like information, but also then seeking out like how to help. Like how do they remember things? How are they going to best learn? Because like how I tell you to do something might like not make any sense to that person. So it's being aware of like a million different things now. Is like, you know, how someone learns. It's not just how a dog learns, it's like how a person learns now. So that obviously makes a difference as well. So I think patience and like seeking out information about like how people learn, talking to people, and I think as well, like I have a lot of people that I train regularly that like have really struggled mentally through COVID. So like there's been like a lot of mental health issues, and like I end up probably dealing with most of them as well. So it's like, you know, like talking to people that like message me and say, oh, you know, I'm really low at the moment, or this, that and the other, and it's like, so, you know, it's not, you're not earning money from that, but you're ending up, you know, I end up being there as like a mental health coordinator too. But I think as well, like people miss like doing their get out. Agility for a lot of people is their like break.
That's true.
And so when all that was taken away from them, and they had like elderly parents that weren't very well, or like family that wasn't very well, obviously it gets to people. So I think I would like dealing with that as well, basically.
So it's more the people than the dogs often as well then, basically. Next question would be, I've already done that one. Is your business where you want it to be, or is there any way you'd like to progress it? So sort of, are you where you'd like to be, or do you have any sort of visions for the future to improve or, you know, branch out a bit?
So definitely. So I obviously want to expand my dog training. I have so many people message me for group classes, training, etc. So I would love to hopefully this year sometime soon.
Yeah.
Would like to expand that, and obviously I would like to start potentially this year as well, running some camps. I had this year Sarah Hamblin come over and teach some hoopers.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I would like to get that sorted. Potentially looking at doing that more again this year, and just basically having more people come in and teach as well. So then when I'm not teaching, then as a business, I've still got an income coming in, and also the area's being used, because first and foremost, like if I'm like, I've just got a piece of land, so it's going through planning at the moment, but obviously I want whatever I do, I want it to be used. So like, it's like, there's no point in it just being sat there. So if I'm not working, then it would, for my business, if I can have stuff in there like making me money, then that's brilliant. So obviously I would like to expand more regarding I'm wanting to have next year a pet life skills class running, or probably like more than one, I would assume, by the level of messages I get. And I would like some agility classes to be taught that aren't being taught by me, because again, I just don't have the time in the day to, it's like the work-life balance, I don't have the time to do anymore.
Exactly.
And at the moment, with like how my husband's on shifts, like I can't take that, like I can't do anymore because of the work-life balance with that, and obviously making sure that somebody's home with him. So and then I can't finish too late now, because if Stephen is still on like a night shift and I'm working, it means I've got to go and collect him from my parents and then get him home. So I can't, you can't be going to bed. It's all right on the like odd occasion, but I can't be going to bed late. So so I think it's at the moment like it's just that balancing, and hopefully like all the plans, so there's a lot of plans going on, so hopefully all the plans come into place, which would be will be ideal. But obviously it's just sitting and waiting at the moment, and hoping that goes ahead. And obviously I have some sheep at the field, so what I'd like to offer, which we don't have in Lincoln I don't think, is I'm going to start offering livestock management classes with and I think that's one of the issues is obviously like we've got like Derby not that far away, and you can go for like nice long walks, but then there's obviously livestock, and then people the dogs off and the dogs chase the livestock, and then obviously there's an issue. So yeah, I think we could with the sheep there, potentially would like to start offering some livestock like control classes to work through them issues, because that would be really, really helpful as well. So lots of plans, and maybe potentially a secure dog walking paddock. So we will see what happens. But yeah, there's lots of work to go on, and obviously just waiting for planning, which takes an age. But no, I've been really lucky, obviously, with my venues that I've got. So yeah, I think that
cool.
It's hard because there's so much you potentially can do, but then it's also like building up on that, because there's so many plans that I've got for expanding the business. It's just basically waiting on planning. So yeah, it will be I have everything there in place for a lot of growth with the business, but equally me working the same hours, which would be nice. So yeah, and I think you've got to take that a big step in order to grow. You can grow so much, but then equally, like you've got to work harder to be able to get to them places you want to get. And like I've done the working hard, like I've done the like ridiculous amount of training days in 1 month, and the traveling like over like 3,000 miles, or like, you know what I mean, I've done like all that to get to where I am. So now I would like to progress it more, but at the moment I'm in a nice comfortable situation. So there's lots that I want to expand in the business this year. I can say this year now.
Yeah.
Not next year. So yeah, it's but about choosing like how to expand, when to expand, when is good time to expand for you. And just, I think sometimes people just want to go big straight away, and I think that is probably when most businesses crumble, because it's like going from like a paid job into a self-employed role is hard work, but then going into it, like jump into it straight away, is like, people are like, wow, I didn't realize, like, you know, I just thought I'd like go to work and come back and not have to deal with, you know, it just might be like the maintenance on the field, or sourcing somebody to cut the grass, or cutting the grass yourself, or, you know, like, and all the little things, or the car, or like the car park on the way into the field. Got a little bit muddy, so like I'm like shoveling stone to make a track to make sure the entrance is safe. All that sort of thing, you just kind of think you kind of forget about, but it's all still linked to your business and linked to your working time.
Yeah, I think there's like a stigma where a lot of people think being self-employed is sort of easier than other jobs, but I think it's the opposite.
Yeah, I think the luxury is you can kind of choose your own hours. You sort your hours. That's brilliant. But the downside is, like, you choose your own hours, but you do tons more work at home when other people switch off. And you also, you know, if you don't work, you don't get paid. If you're sick, you don't get paid. So, and equally, if you know, like, if you know, I always now make people pay up front. So I used to do like training days where the people could pay like the week before, or like. I don't do that anymore, because people are like, oh, Emil, I can't come now. So people like guest trainer days, all my members I allowed to pay a month up front, because I think making people pay like 3 months in advance for a training day is like, it's a lot hard for people, and I think then a lot of people don't want to book it and then miss out. So and I think the members page makes a group where they all are quite respectful. I think that's helpful. But then obviously it's just making sure, like, you manage the situations. Like you'll gradually learn, like, you can't trust people to pay you. You can't trust people to pay you. People will turn around last minute and say, oh, well, you know, I'm not coming. So and I'm not going to pay, and they've not, and it will always be the people that haven't paid. If people have paid, they'll give you warning. I always take payment up front now, and I always make sure there's like a written thing there to say, like, things aren't refundable if you don't give warning.
Little disclaimer.
Little disclaimer.
So for the members area then, is that on your website, or is that on Facebook, or how does that sort of work?
You can purchase it through my website, but as I've worked out, someone told me the other day that I managed to delete off my website, so I need to re-add it to my website. Someone tried to purchase it yesterday and was like, oh, where do I buy it from? I'm like, here. Oh, it's not here. I'm having some I'm going to be stocking some coats. I'm redoing my website to add them on, and I've obviously deleted it by accident, so I need to re-add it back on.
So you do that as well, do you, where you sort of buy products and sell them on? Like, is that from your sponsors and stuff like that?
This is one of my sponsors is somebody I've known for a long time. She was doing agility, I think, pretty much when I started doing agility. She makes dog coats. She makes eco-friendly drying dog coats. And she has made like fleece jackets. Coats, and they are like brilliant, really good, but she won't retail them on her website because they're not eco-friendly, which I see exactly why she's doing it, because it's like she can't have like an eco-friendly business and then sell fleece. So I understand what she's doing, but obviously she's so talented in her design making and stuff, and the coats are so bloody amazing in like their shape and the coverage and the range of motion and movement that they give the dogs still, but keeping them warm. I was talking to her and I just said, like, it's silly that you only sell these at like shows, like when you're you don't sell them. Like, I understand why she doesn't sell them through her business on the website, but obviously it's in her business, but it's not on a website.
Yeah.
But I understand that, but it's silly because they're such a good thing. So I just said, well, why don't I potentially put them onto my website, because it's pointless. She's ordering, like, she's ordered like loads, and it's like they're sat on the shelf.
Yeah.
Wait till she goes to do a display somewhere, or like a stall somewhere. So I was like, it's silly them just being sat there. They're too good to be just sat there.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't I look at stocking them, selling them through my website and taking a commission off it? Yeah. And she was like, that would be brilliant. So obviously it works both ways. I'm like, I obviously want dogs to be warm, ready for training, and keep warm throughout the training session, which these coats are really brilliant. And obviously she's then still getting her turnaround. She's obviously making a little less than if she sold them herself, but equally she's getting the turnaround in profits. Well, hopefully when I sort out the payment link, she'll be getting the turnaround in profits, and obviously I'll be getting a profit as well for having them on my website.
Yeah. So do you class because obviously you have personal sponsors for you as sort of a competitor in agility, do you class them as also being being sponsors for your business, or?
I would say so, because obviously I'm at the moment it's just solely me as my business. So I would say they sponsor me as an individual or my dog. So for example, like Natural Instinct sponsor my dogs. Obviously I'm not eating Natural Instinct, but they sponsor my dogs, and that's really good, because that, like, it, and my dogs do really well on it. Saves me like probably about 160 quid a month.
Yeah, it's a lot.
On the retail price. So yeah, that it saves me tons. And then obviously, like, there's places like Camdoir, which I have always bought stuff from them since I've started doing agility, because they have such a great range of products, and like so many products in one place. The other thing I love about them is obviously they deliver really quickly, and I think that makes a big difference. When you want something, I want it now. So it's like they deliver really quickly. They always have good products for sporting dogs, so like usually they fit well, not like some of the stuff you order off the internet and you can wrap around your dog 3 times. So yeah, I think they always have like a good quality of product there. So I was happy when they messaged me and was like, would you want us to sponsor you? So yeah, there's places like that. And then I'm just looking behind me. Pine's laid on the bed fast asleep.
God bless him.
So yeah, and then we've got like other places like Chris Curtin offers help with fitness, which is good, because I've got bad hips, so can't always do the lesson plans that he wants to do. So he like switches things around for me, which is good. And then can you hear Marble?
Yeah.
I was like,
is that Marble? Bless him.
I might just have to go and get her, because I'll be back up in a second.
That's all right. 3 questions left. The next one's interesting. It's, have you ever come across a dog that you couldn't train?
No, I don't think I've ever come across a dog that I couldn't train. I've had dogs that have been aggressive, like with either people or other dogs, or usually then what we'll say is like I just bring them to, like, they'd come to a one-to-one and we'd work through. I used to have a Dutch herder that I used to train, that was really reactive with people. He used to call me on a muzzle, and we kind of got him to the point where we just built him up, like with me being around. And then it got to the point where he'd take food from me, he'd work for me, like all them things. And then he built up to like classes and working around, obviously in a controlled situation. So other dogs would be either in a crate or on a, like, or only be dogs that wouldn't lunge or anything like that around him. So yeah, I don't think I've come across a dog that I can't train. Obviously I've had a lot of dogs that have been a lot harder work than others. Or equally like are a little bit like nervy around people. So the situations then have to be obviously a lot more controlled and managed.
Yeah.
There's one situation where I've had a child training, and I've said that I didn't feel that it was a good in the dog's or the child's best interest to be training in that situation, because the dog would like redirect onto the child, which that's not safe.
No,
and it wasn't that it's not trainable, it's that the environment and what we're asking the dog to do as a behaviour was too much, and then there was just that safety reasons like that. But then it's like, right, okay, you either need to just work on your like foundations and break things down, or we need to like stop doing whatever's making him redirect. So but that was like one dog, but I think that's more that there was an issue with redirecting on arousal and work through that. But I don't think there's really an untrainable dogs. It's, I think sometimes like just managing the behaviour. I guess everybody just wants to get to doing agility. So some dogs have more of a behavioural issue to work through first.
Yeah, I was going to say, has anyone ever come to you wanting to start agility like pretty much straight away, but you've seen a behavioural issue that you've had to either, redirect them to another behaviourist or anything else before they come back to you for agility, or do you sort of deal with that?
Normally I'll deal pretty much with that. Like if a dog comes and there's an issue with something, like whether it's like an issue with being able to work around other dogs, or like being able to work, like I had a Pyrenean when he came to me, and he like literally he used to like he'd run across the field barking at me, and then would like try and nip me. But now like he's working in groups, like he did like the ABC Olympia qualifiers the other week. And bear in mind, like when he started training, he couldn't even work with another person I had to stand completely still. Everybody else had to go out of the arena. Whereas now, like, he's worked through all that, and he can like work with someone coming to take the lead off him at a show and stuff like that. So I think all them sorts of things, like, it's just gradual and explaining to the owners that like it's maybe not necessarily something they've done. Like, and I think this is what, as dog trainers, like, people always pin, oh, it's because you did this that doggy is doing this. It's not necessarily always people. Sometimes, like, dogs do just, like, have funny little traits that we then also, like, appease sometimes, and then it becomes an issue. So I think, it's just explaining to the owners, like, what you see is the issue. Working through and explaining that actually that issue, the life skills issue, needs to be resolved before they do agility. And then working through a bit. And I think the thing is, like, some trainers, like, they'll say to people, right, okay, this is what the issue is. Go and find someone to help you with. And like, and then it's like, oh, great, you've told me my dog's got an issue, and you're giving me no help. Like, I think if you need to refer them, at least give them give them a list of people to refer to. So I think mostly I will tend to like deal with that myself anyway, and we'll just say, right, okay, we need to work through this first because it will become an issue. And I think the plus side is, obviously, because I've got quite a lot of experience now, is that people, when I say I think it'll be an issue, people generally believe that it'll be an issue. It's just explaining to people and giving them options, but then equally saying to them, like life skills come before the other stuff.
Definitely.
Life skills should become before agility.
So 2 left. Is there anything you wish you knew when you first started your business?
Oh, is there anything I wish I knew
that could have helped you if you knew at the time that you know now?
So probably I would say probably just the one that I say every year, I never do it, is being like, every year when it gets to like tax book time, and every year, like, it's like we always leave it to like December, and then it's like a mad rush December and January to get everything completed. So I would say like being on top of, like, I have like a little like wallet in my car, and like all my receipts from that month go into a folder, and then like at the end of that month I then like take the folder inside, put a new folder in my van. So all my like receipts are then like roughly in the same month. Like, hopefully they'll be in the same month. And then what I try and do at the end of each month is to or like probably the middle of the next month is go to the previous month's envelope and put all the receipts in order, print out my bank statement from last month, and so that basically you're doing your accounts on the go rather than moving it till the last minute. Because that's so stressful, because then like especially if it's your first year as well, you've got to find an accountant, you've got to do all the enrollment stuff so that they can do your accounts for you. And if you don't, like, if you've never done it before, it takes ages. So it's getting somebody, I have somebody to do my accounts because it's just easier. So I get everything in order for her, print my bank statement off, and then send it across, and that just makes life so much easier. The other thing is you getting in. Yeah. The other thing with what was we going to say about them?
So with your receipts, is that like everything business expenses kind of thing?
Yeah, like I put all my fuel receipts in. At the minute I charge mileage because it works out better for me as a business rather than putting my fuel receipts in. But I also have an app, which is good because I think next year I'm going to do fuel receipts, which I've been saving anyway. So I have an app which literally links to my van, and I think I pay like $2.25 for it a month. And it just tracks everything I do, whether it's in my car or like Stephen's car. It tracks everything that I do, so that because it's silly little things like you'll go to I don't know, you'll go to a pet shop to buy treats for training or something, or you'll go you go to I don't know, you go to do sort of like pick up something from the pet shop for work, or you know, I went to pick up like some equipment the other week, and it's like you forget all them little trips which are to do with your business, which are a fuel expense. But that, just having that on my phone, which it just connects to my van. I don't even know how it does it, but it just connects to my van, and it basically just tracks everything that I'm doing. Mileage wise, and it just means then that at the end of each month I can just go through, tick anything that was personal and anything that's business, and then it saves it and I just print it out, and then like it just works. So then it just makes it easier for me doing my accounts, but equally the person that I give them to check them over, basically.
Cool. So sorry.
No, and things like, obviously, like I have like apps on my phone to do like my posters and stuff. So all like that stuff that like is obviously business related. Because don't use it for anything else other than doing my business stuff.
Cool. So the last question is, what advice would you give to someone wanting to start their own dog training business?
Okay. So I would say it's, you know, like it's just like, don't jump in too quick. You obviously want to just progress like at a sensible pace. So like, you know, each time, like, so there'll be hiccups along the road. Like definitely there always will be like a hiccup along the road. Like it might be a small hiccup, it might be a big hiccup, but there'll be little like setbacks, and that's like fine. But I think just not jumping in too big too quickly, because it's that getting to understand that like work-life balance, but also understand like the admin, getting on top of it. Otherwise I think sometimes it can become really overwhelming. So just like making gradual increases into your business, whether I don't know, if you're dog walking, maybe you do like 4 dogs in a walk, but you're like, right, okay, I want to take 6, because obviously that's more lucrative to you. But if you take 6, it's like you can make that jump to 6, but you have to manage, do them 6 get along, do them 6 have a recall, where can you walk them 6? like, you know, or there's so many things to control before you put them six together to make it more lucrative to you. So just making like little steps really, and I like set yourself goals, right? Okay, I would like to have such and such by this. I would like to do this by that, but like make them achievable goals for yourself, because I think if you smash them goals, brilliant. But obviously then you're not going to be like, oh, well, what am I doing wrong? Because you actually might not be doing anything wrong. It might just be the fact that actually you just need to increase your business slowly. And I think like the other thing as well is like I think like I see a lot of things. The power of like Facebook is brilliant, because obviously like it's like unless you pay for your advertising, it's mostly free advertising, and it's like easy for businesses. Everybody's on it. It's, you know, it makes life easy. You can just be on your phone. Like you can everything about Facebook is like easy. So it's brilliant for businesses, but then also it's negative for businesses, because people can like unfollow, or they can mute, or they can like, and the thing is like I always say there's probably 4 dog trainers that I have muted, because they just, it's not that I dislike them, it's just that they oversell, and all I see when I'm going through my Facebook feed is like this like over the top selling. Like to me, I'm like, oh god, not again. So I just mute that. Like, so then it's actually not like, you know, you could be paying for advertising, but like most of the people could have muted your stuff. So I think it's just not being out there, but like finding the balance of being out there and not being like you can be in people's face, but I think it's that balance of like being like
not pushing it on them too much.
And I think that's a hard balance, because obviously as a business you want to keep push to get to where you want to be, but then equally you see some businesses that don't push at all. Like I am probably like I'm looking at the fact that I've obviously got the following of people and the people there, so I kind of don't need to really advertise that much. And anything that I do advertise usually fills straight away. But then it's like the power of like having my group, which like that fills stuff anyway. So then, you know, it's a great opportunity for people to be able to get onto things when a space comes available, because usually the members have taken it. So I think it's just been and offering like stuff like to build a business, like if you're offering like your like what you're doing now, like there's a couple of people now doing like podcasts and stuff like that. So I think they're always like good to not necessarily sell your business, but promote your name. So either like and promote what you're about and what you're doing without being like too like pushy. So it's hard, because obviously you're wanting to do well, but I think like the results speak for themselves basically. And I think that's pretty much how, like, especially with dog training, like if people like if I see, like, for example, I saw a puppy the other week in Daisy Maid, and it was a really well behaved puppy. The person was really good with it. They were rewarding frequently. They got loads of focus. And so I just like passed a comment. I said, such a lovely puppy. It's really nice to see somebody interacting with a dog, la, 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 la. And I said, and I actually asked her if she was a dog trainer, because she actually looked like her timing was good when she was reinforcing the dog. And it didn't look like somebody who'd owned a dog for the first time. And in fact, it was actually that person's first dog.
Oh, wow.
And they've been going to a dog, and so I said, where have you been going? So for me, like that to me was like, okay, actually they like deceive students out of that person perform, like she's obviously that dog trainer, that pet trainer has obviously explained things well. She's all like she's made them understand about timing of reinforcements, all them things. I think to me that sells. Like at the moment I would recommend to go to her, because I've just seen her students being really good. Does that make sense? No, so I think like the results for that would speak for themselves. And I think it's just building up, like if you have life skills classes, like you know, you're like videoing your students, or asking them to send some videos in. Like you've got your group, and like on Facebook, so like maybe your like Paws in Pursuit, like say you had a life skills class, Paws in Pursuit life skills class, like ask if people would mind, like if you shared their videos. Like normally everybody's like happy with it, but you obviously ask if you don't mind. And then like saying, oh, like tonight we've been doing recall sessions, or like Temptation Alley, like look how, and it's like, it is like letting people see how fun the environment is, how much of the learning's done, and also like how much people are enjoying it. And it's just like building up from having a gradual amount of people to building up. And it's almost like, you know, like if you buy something off the internet, and like you probably look at the reviews, and like especially building up a business now, it's like, unless you know the product, you're going to look at the reviews. And for like dog training, it's people might look at the reviews, but people are going to like look at, especially agility, are going to say, right, okay, well we'll look at the results. And like, okay, well, okay, they train with that person, okay, brilliant, or oh, they're doing well, okay. And I think agility is quite a fickle sport. Definitely. You know, like people will always like want to be training with people that are doing well. Like the thing is, people can do well and they might actually not be a good dog trainer. They might be a good dog trainer to their own dogs, with their own dogs, but they actually might not be a good like person and be able to communicate with people. I'm not a good person. I didn't mean a good person. I know what you mean. They might not communicate. They might not communicate to people very well. I think it's sometimes people can train a dog well, but it doesn't make them a good good communicator with other people. I think that's the other thing is just like, obviously people will just start to look for themselves and start to go, right, okay, you know, oh, they're doing all right, okay, maybe I might go for a lesson. I enjoyed that. And then they might tell their friends, and then it's just about like
word of mouth,
letting people do your work for you, because it's like, you know, you can they're going to share, then they're going to go on to like say, oh, this was really good fun. Oh, you know, like, oh, have you seen what did there was a dog trainer the other week, agility trainer, and it's like they were like, oh, I'm going to do a series on what I do, so maybe hand targets, or like put some like free videos up for hand targets, or do you know what I mean, like little things like that obviously is like really good, helpful little things for people to do. And that's, I guess I did like a puppy chat podcast for Elise the other week, and like loads of people messaged me after and was like, oh, you know, I didn't think of this, or I hadn't thought of this. And so like actually like, and because Elise, like, a lot of people have said for podcasts in the past is like, do you want like paying? And the way I see podcasts is no, because that's, for me, that's like a good advertisement in business. Because for a lot of people, they don't, if you're at agility, they see you in an agility context. But like when I'm doing agility, I am probably someone said to me the other, last year, like, oh, like, I didn't realise like this is how you were. I thought you were really like unapproachable.
Really? Okay.
And at least they were honest. But true. I guess when I'm competing with my dogs, and especially Fling, because I like focus really hard on like her, and she's actually like quite hard to manage. And especially if I'm going round a show, I don't want to stop and chat. I just want to be focused on her. So I can kind of see how like people like, I'll say hello, I'll be like, oh, hello, but I just try and keep walking. So I can see how people, I think, oh, maybe she's a little bit rude. Because obviously when I'm at a show, I just kind of want to focus, especially if I'm going for a run.
If you're competing,
on what I'm doing. I want to focus on what I'm doing. I don't want to stand and have a chat.
So
I guess like it's very obvious, like for them reasons, like how people can then misinterpret somebody's personality. So I think then things like the podcast kind of like they make people understand that actually like you're like not the person that they see when you're en route to your run.
Exactly.
So you're actually
a
normal
the behind the scenes,
human being. And like there was stuff in there, like it's like giving away free advice, but equally like I kind of see it as like it's not like free advice, because all the advice I gave is stuff that will help people but make my job easier.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, we spoke about like recalls, like toy swaps. I spoke about her, like Marvel's got like quite a lot of chase drive and is a little bit car chasey at the moment. So like for me, like I spoke about then like what I see that as, and then what it could grow to, and how I'm going to manage it. So it was like all them things, I think, like kind of what you're doing now is it actually gives people a glimpse of your personality rather than you at an agility show. So I think them things give people like a good idea, like more of an inkling of you.
Yeah, that's it. Like, because I'm not getting paid, you know, podcasts, you don't get paid for them straight away, but it's more, like you said, just to sort of promote and, you know, put something out there and stuff. But back to the Facebook thing, what I was thinking the other day was, like, pretty much all of my Facebook friends are already in dog training and agility, so they don't kind of need dog training because they're already in it and they already know what they're doing. So I was thinking the other day how that makes it sort of harder to advertise on Facebook when the people that will see your posts are already sort of doing it. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's like because everybody like said to me, like, you know, like obviously like I teach you and obviously you're like gonna be a dog trainer. They were like, oh, like how do you feel about that? And I was like it's fine, like that's not a problem. Like you like someone can teach, that's fine. Like I'm busy, you know, and I've obviously offered you potential when I obviously grow my own business for you to work. So like it's not, there's no problem with that. I kind of think you know, I don't want to be busier personally than I am now. So the only way for me to grow and earn more money and equally offer other people opportunities is to do what I've suggested to you. So that's fine. Like that's not an issue for me. It's more and I kind of think people may come to you both, and that's fine. We're going to train in a similar way because you've taught and learned pretty much everything from like pretty much most of Ethel and like Arrow. So it's like that's fine. But I would rather somebody go to two people that train similarly than to go to one person who's going to lure the dog down a piece of contact with a treat in their hand to then come to me who's like, no, let's teach the behaviour so the dog learns behaviour and it's not being learned. Like, to me, it makes my life easier if people want to go to two people, that they go to two people that are similar. So, like, for me, that's not an issue. Like, that is like, you know, it just makes my life easier because I'm not wasting so much time to like. Because obviously a dog is going to go to the bottom of the contact if you lure it with a piece of cheese. Or
that's it.
Or a tennis ball. It's going to happen, but it's the consistency of the behaviour is it's not going to be there in the ring. You know, like, so I'd rather it happen like that. I've got somebody near that is going to, or that somebody that works for me that is going to do the same things as me. So that doesn't, for me, that's like a good thing rather than necessarily as people see it as a negative thing. Business is business, and people are going to have the same or similar things everywhere, and that's what it is. Like, you know, you can't copyright training. No, that's like everybody's we're constantly learning and changing. You'd have to copyright a million things.
That's it. It's hard.
But I think it's just like I think there's so many people starting dog training now. Like, also, I think agility is harder to teach than everybody makes out.
Definitely.
And I think there's a couple of people that I know that have started teaching and they're like, oh my God, how do you do it? Like mentally draining. Obviously I'm very conditioned to teaching agility now. So it's a lot easier for me. And I'm obviously I think I'm like resilient a lot. I joke, I'm small, a lot of things go over my head. But I like think so like a lot of times like I just like things that people are like, are you not annoyed? Or I'm like, no, like doesn't
I suppose you get
life's
used to
too short to be annoyed about little, like silly little things. So I think not everybody can stick at teaching agility because it's harder. And the one of the things I would say is, like, teaching pet classes is so much easier in that respect, because like, I think you've got that constant rolling 8 weeks. You've got 8 weeks. I know this sounds really horrible. You don't get attached to people.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. They don't come into training and they don't say like what they're struggling, like what they're. You don't have that relationship with people. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to not like. A lot of my students share like personal stuff with me, and I keep that like confidential because they need to offload, and sometimes if you're that person that they can offload to, brilliant. Oh, 1 second, pop-ups, come here, come on, to see where you are wandering around. So yeah, a lot of people share information with you that they just need to offload with, whereas you're like 8-week puppy classes, people like haven't built confidence in you enough to share that information, or maybe don't really want to share. But they're doing like your structured block of 8 weeks. You don't really have to change anything for your 8 weeks. Your next course is exactly the same for 8 weeks. And you're just gradually all you're doing is just gradually like building the amount of times you repeat that course. But people usually for pet life skill classes come in for 8 weeks and then go. And you know, you might see them around town walking their dog, or in town, and they might say hello, but other than that, they're not. You don't really see them again, but they're lucrative for your business, because all them sets of 6 different people or 8 different people, if they have a good experience with you, they're going to like and share. And when somebody puts on their, like on the Facebook page, like the Lincoln recommendations, oh, I'm looking for a pet trainer or a life skills trainer, they're going to put, oh yeah, Summer Clark, such and such, tag Paws in Pursuit. Them things are better for your business than anything else. I think the power of recommendations directly from people is more powerful than like flooding the market with advertising, because I think sometimes like people are like, oh, well, it's all right, they can afford to pay for the advertising if they're paying for it.
That's true.
Or they're doing that because of or it can just sometimes be too much. So I think like the best recommendations you can get are by starting just very small. If you're doing your pet classes, doing your 8-week block, asking them to write a review on your Facebook. Okay. And then maybe even like a little certificate at the end, you taking pictures and say, can I share this on my Facebook? Wow, like, I don't know, John and Fred, they've just passed their 8-week training course. And because they're going to be like, oh, and they might share it on their page and go, yay, John's just done his 8 weeks at puppy school or whatever. Do you know? So, and it's like an at Paws in Pursuit. So then all his friends are seeing it, which aren't your friends, and it kind of like goes off like that, if that makes sense. And then, but if that's just one person, imagine having 6 people in the class that do it, and then you've got another 6 people who all do it, and another 6 people who all do it, and they all then say, oh, you know, your recommendations page, we're looking for pet classes in Lincoln, and they might be like, okay, and then this other person might say this person, and then you'll get people that are putting like, and then you just look down and it's like, okay, like 10 people have said this person, and loads of people have liked it, and like one person has said this company.
I mean, I suppose what I'm trying to do at the moment is sort of purely the online sort of side of it. But I suppose that's harder because, you know, people enjoy actually going to a training place and stuff like that. So I suppose it's not quite the same as doing it in person in that sense. But I suppose all the principles are similar for a business. But I think just the harder thing with online is, like, I've always said, like, I don't do loads of online because it's harder because you have to do the behaviour. The people do the behaviour and they might have done it wrong, then they send it back to you and then they have to correct it in a next session before they can move on. But like it's I think it's like it's still the same principle is like, obviously people are going to share what they've done, like oh, I've done this and I've learnt it with such and such. Oh, look at what she's doing. They might put the video thanks to such and such. Well, cool, that's all the questions. Thank you very much for being on the podcast, and this will be up on Wednesday.
Cool.
So that was my conversation with Lucy today. Thank you so much to Lucy for coming onto the podcast. That was a super helpful conversation. I learned a lot about business, especially with this being something that I'm wanting to do and I'm trying to get into at the moment and start for myself. So yeah, I absolutely loved having that discussion, and I hope you guys found it really useful too. So make sure to follow me at Paws in Pursuit and Summer Clark on all of these social medias. I'll put them right here for you so you know exactly where to find me. I'm very active every day, posting on my pages and on my stories, so give those a follow. And make sure to follow Lucy as well, Lucy Norton, and Ready to Run Agility on most things, the same as me. But yeah, huge thanks to Lucy. I hope you guys found that really useful as well. And make sure you keep messaging me and letting me know what you love about the podcast, what you don't like so much, and improvements that I can make and topics you would like me to cover in the future. And I will see you guys all next Wednesday. Bye!